Hello, everybody, and welcome back here at another episode of BSN Network. Today is Thursday, June 16th. Hope everybody's having a day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Thursday, June 16th here today, coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. You had a lot of baseball on, and you had Game 1 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, so it was a very good game. It was a quick start for the Avalanche. Lightning come back, Avalanche win in overtime, so an entertaining Game 1 for sure. And anytime a hockey game, any sport goes into overtime, baseball into extra innings, it always adds that little extra excitement. When you recap it and, when you watch it, it always adds that little extra excitement. So last night, Game 1 goes into OT. It wasn't a long overtime. I mean, the Avalanche scored a minute 23 seconds in, but still, it's in OT. Go waiting, it's in overtime. The fact that, the next goal that's scored is going to take a 1-0 lead is always going to be an intense game, an intense, moment there. So, Avalanche got the win. Yankees also got a win yesterday, so a very good day for the Yankees. It was close. It was a nail-biter, especially when Licky came in, worked himself into trouble and worked himself out of trouble. I mean, it was, he allowed a little bit of run, allowed the 2 runs, and a little bit of struggling from Licky. I think he hasn't pitched a ton recently, and I think maybe it could be some rustiness and stuff like that. But worked himself in and out of trouble. He worked himself into trouble, not too much. Not to the point where we were losing or they tied the game or they took the lead. But the Yankees got the win 4-3. Clay Holmes continues to dominate. Goes into the 9th inning, shuts the door, and the Yankees win another game and win another series. And the Yankees are 30 games above 500. Nasty Nestor also had a great performance yesterday, repping the Nasty Nestor shirt today after his nice performance yesterday, and his ERA is now 1.96. I mean, it's phenomenal what he's doing. I mean, it really is something that you don't see very often. I mean, you're witnessing greatness when you watch Nasty Nestor, and it's the truth. I mean, as much as people want to joke around, it's the truth. I mean, this is an elite pitcher who's just going out there and just, striking out and dominating some of the better lineups in all of baseball. So, a great win yesterday for the Yankees. They'll look to get another win today, and they'll look to get another series sweep. Game 3 of that series tonight. Yankee Stadium. Yankees look for the win before heading out onto the road starting tomorrow in Toronto. Mets also play tonight. They are in the rubber game of a 3-game set after losing last night. A sloppy night for the Mets. It was just an off night. Pitching-wise, fielding just was not the Mets' night. You're going to have those nights over the course of a 162-game season. But you just got to hope that, you bounce back because the Braves are hot. They're right behind them. For the Mets, you got to bounce back, turn the page. If you can get the win tonight, boom, that's another series win. That's what you got to do. And then you have the Marlins coming into town, which is a team that you should be able to beat and should beat up pretty good. So, an opportunity for the Mets tonight back at home to get the series win against the Brewers. So, Yankees-Mets tonight. Yankees go for the sweep. Mets go for the series win. Let's get to the topics for today's podcast. So, we're going to start off with the Avalanche and the Lightning Game 1 recap. So I previewed the series last night, and now we're going to get to the Game 1 recap. Game 1 was last night. Avalanche got the 4-3 win in overtime. It only took a minute and 23 seconds into overtime for the Avalanche to score. Avalanche scored early and often. Scored 4 goals on one of the best goaltenders in all of hockey. So a big win for the Avalanche. They take a 1-0 series lead, and now the series is in their hands in terms of what they do with it. They take a 2-0 series lead back to Tampa. You're in a very good spot. If Tampa ties it up, well, look, now you got to find a way to win one in Tampa because you don't want to fall down 3-1. So, Avalanche get a very nice Game 1 victory. We'll get to that. We're also going to get to the Braves' 14-game win streak. I have not talked about this yet through when they got to 10 games, when they got to 11 games, 12 games, 13 games. I've not talked about it. It's 14 games now, and I got to talk about it. I can't just let it go unnoticed because this is a great win streak for the Atlanta Braves, and I figured, you know what, things now are getting a little bit tight in the NL East. This also relates back to the Mets because now the Mets, things are getting a little tighter. Now, I don't think the Mets are going to just completely get on a going and losing streak and all of a sudden fall in second place. I don't think that's going to happen. But the Braves are definitely applying some pressure on the Mets in terms of, look, this series, the division isn't going to be a gimme. It's not going to be an 8-game division lead the entire year. It's going to get close. Braves are going to win games. They're going to, they're going to make things interesting. We knew that was coming. It was just only a matter of time. So the Braves 14-game win streak, and how long can this go? Because they got the Cubs coming up next, who is a very beatable opponent as well. So we'll talk about that and get into it, and what has been the key to the Braves' success after a rough start to the season. We'll get to that. We'll also finish things off with the New York sports update. As always, Yankees, Mets tonight. Yankees finish up a 3-game set going for the sweep against the Rays, and the Mets finish up a 3-game set going for the series win. Rubber game, a 3-game set tonight against the Brewers. So that's what's on tap for today, and a lot to get to. With all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So last night was Game 1 of the Stanley Cup. Avalanche, Lightning, and Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. That arena was electric. Fans were pumped up, rightfully so. First time in a long time the Avalanche have been in this situation this close to the Cup. They haven't won a Cup, I believe, since 2001. It's been a long time. Franchise that went through some really tough years recently to get to this point, kind of that rebuild years. And now they're here, and they got a big win last night, 4-3, and they take a 1-0 series lead. Game 2, by the way, will be on Saturday, June 18th, 9 Eastern or 8 Eastern on ABC. So that will be Game 2. Big opportunity there for the Avalanche. But to talk about Game 1 last night, like I said, the Avalanche took care of business, and that's what you're supposed to do in these playoff games, in Stanley Cups. You have home ice, you have home field advantage, you have home ice for a reason. The crowd was pumped up, the energy was, great. The Avalanche crowd during, before the face-off, that arena was, about to explode, and especially when that first goal happened by Gabriel Landeskog. Especially when that first goal happened. It was that stadium was going nuts, and that was a goal that most likely, that's a goal that on paper it was a goal by Landeskog, because he pressed it in, he took it with his stick and tapped it in, late, right when it was about to cross the line, he tapped it in. And Rottinen obviously put the puck on net, went through Vasilevsky's legs, and Landeskog put it in. Now, realistically, that's probably Rottenen's goal. Landeskog puts it in. He gets credit for it. But, the Avalanche early on came out, firing. And you have to expect that, right? They're the home team. This is the first time in a long time they've been in this situation. They're young. They're high energized. They're wired. They're excited. They're pumped up. Not saying the Avalanche are, the Avalanche are the veteran team. They've been down this road before. You could, or the Lightning, rather. You could definitely tell that the Avalanche came out high energy, much more, I think just enthusiasm. Not saying that the Lightning came, the Lightning came out a little bit flat. It's kind of how it is. And that's how the Lightning came out in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Rangers in Game 1 and 2. On the road, they came out flat. Completely different team at home. We'll see how that plays out in this series. It could also just be how bad the Rangers were on the road. But in terms of last night, Avalanche got off to that quick start, and that's what you needed to do, right? You're in a situation where you're the younger team. You might not you're not necessarily always the favorite in this situation. But you have home ice. That other team, much more veteran. The Lightning are much more veteranized, been in the situation, know how to handle it. The Lightning came out and the Avalanche came out and did what they needed to do. They put a lot of pressure on Ed early. They took some of the pressure off of, they put some, They put a lot of pressure early on Vasilevsky, right, which they needed to, and they put a lot, and they took some of the pressure off of Darcy Kemper, who made some saves, but didn't need to make a ton of saves last night. Didn't need to make any massive saves. He was fine. He got the job done. Avalanche scored 4 goals. That's gonna win you a lot of hockey games if your goalie does his job and steps up. So they got off to that quick start, and it was concerning for a Lightning fan. This is similar to how the Rangers series went in the conference finals, where early on, Vasilevsky looked a little shaky. They were putting pucks on net, and he let up 2 softies early on. 7 minutes and 47 seconds in, Gabriel Landeskog scores. That puts them up 1-0. Obviously, Rottinen was the one who had the primary shot. If you watched the game, if you saw the highlights, you know what I'm talking about. Landeskog basically just tapped it in with his stick. Didn't even need to. But when, the Lightning play guys right behind him and you're going full at the net, just tap it in, might as well get it in. And then at 9:23, so less than 2 minutes later, Avalanche score another goal to go up 2-0. And both goals right? Both goals are two, one was the one was Lance Calgary just tapped it and went behind Vasilevsky. He lost track of it. And the other one right through the 5-hole. Those are two goals that Vasilevsky very rarely allows. And those were two kind of head-scratching goals if you're a Lightning fan, like, in terms of, like, how do those go in on such a good goaltender? But really, the Avalanche were forcing so much pressure on net. Their forecheck was amazing early on. I mean, they were forechecking well. They were getting the puck in their zone. They were getting out of their zone. They were getting into the Lightning's, defensive zone. They were getting opportunities on net. And when you do that, you're going to score goals. And that's what happens when you put the puck on net, no matter how good of a goal you're going up against. If you got a good forecheck, if you're playing with a lot of energy in front of your home crowd, early on, you get off to that quick lead, get the Lightning on their heels early, and the Avalanche did that. And that's what they needed to do. And the first quarter was dominated by the Avalanche, scoring three first period goals. The other one coming on a power play 17 minutes and 31 seconds in. So after that really quick start, Lightning then bounced back. Nick Paul scored a goal. It was a very nice move by him to go, went to the, had it on his right, went to the left, snuck it right past Darcy Kemper. It was a good goal. I mean, no matter how good of a goaltender you are, it was a beautiful move by Paul, and he scored. Then obviously Lekkonen scored again on the power play, 3-1. So coming out of the first period, Avalanche dominated the first period. Forecheck, energy, aggressiveness, physicality, goaltending. They had the advantage, which I don't think many people saw going into the series. Darcy Kemper made the saves he needed to make. Did he make phenomenal saves? No, but he didn't need to. The Lightning didn't get many high grade A chances last night. Avalanche were getting the high grade A chances. Lightning weren't. And then this is kind of where the game starts to shift. Because then the Lightning come out, and the second period's kind of up in the air. 12 minutes, 51 seconds in, Lightning score. 3-2 game. Palat with the goal, assisted by Kucherov and McDonough. And then less than a minute later, to be completely exact, 48 seconds later, Lightning score another goal. And that was the one issue going into the series that you wonder, is how do the Avalanche react after allowing a goal, after allowing a couple of goals, or even how do they play with a lead? Right, if you have a 3-1 lead, a 2-0 lead, do you take some of the pressure off? Do you kind of back off a little bit? Do you still put a lot of pressure on? What do you do? And the Avalanche did a good job still putting pressure on that. Vasilevsky started to settle in after that first period. Those first 20 minutes were rough for Vasilevsky. And I actually feel like, and you could call me crazy, but from what I saw, and maybe this is just me, I actually thought that last night, from the first period onward, Vasilevsky actually kept the Lightning in the game at times. Because the Lightning were just they weren't getting high grade A chances. They weren't spending much time in the Colorado zone. The Avalanche's forecheck was great. They were turning the puck over. It was just like the Lightning were taking some dumb penalties too. And you're wondering to yourself, like, they were just playing a sloppy game in front of Vasilevsky, something that Vasilevsky has no control over. And even late, I go to the late in the third period, where they had a power play. They ended up going into overtime, but the Avalanche got like two really good chances with like 5 seconds left. Because the Lightning were just standing around. Like, they just looked sloppy. And Vasilevsky settled in after that first period, and it was obvious. The Avalanche didn't score second or third period. They scored, obviously, in the overtime, but they didn't score the rest of the game after the 3 goals they put up in the first. Vasilevsky settled in. But in front of Vasilevsky, the Lightning were just all over the place, and especially their offense. They only had 23 shots on goal. And they only had 23 shots. The Avalanche had 38 shots on goal. They outshot the Lightning by 15. And their forecheck was phenomenal. The Lightning were at times it looked like the Lightning were just tired. At times it just looked like they were just slow. And obviously sometimes that's the advantage sometimes with a young team. Quick, fast, young, energized. Right? It happens. But back to my point here. It was going to be interesting. It was interesting to see how the Avalanche responded, and they responded fine. Now, they didn't score, but their defense tightened up. It was a 3-3 game. Kemper made some saves, and they went into the third period where nothing really happened in the third. You had that late power play, which I don't want to be the guy that sits here and says that late power play was why they scored the goal a minute 23 seconds into overtime. by Burgoski, but I would tell you that late in that third period, getting that power play, and the Avalanche had with about 15 seconds left, they had 3 really good chances on net. And Cal McCarr, who put the last chance on that, ended up getting blocked by a player in front by the Lightning. I forget who it was exactly, but he got blocked. The Lightning put a ton of pressure on them. And it's almost like the Lightning, or the Avalanche, rather. I'm getting this all mixed up. Avalanche put a ton of pressure on the Lightning. And not that the Avalanche went into desperation mode, but it's almost like all of a sudden the Avalanche were like, look, we're in a 3-3 game. We gotta do what we did in the first period. Forecheck, pressure on net. Stop playing back, but play, just pound the zone, get shots on net. And they did that. Minute 23 into overtime, Burgoski scores, and the Avalanche win game 1, 4-3. Last night, the Avalanche just looked like the more prepared team. Lightning came out early, found themselves on their heels early. Last night, in all seriousness, the Lightning, or the Avalanche rather, I keep on mixing this up, I don't know why. The Avalanche looked like the team that's been to back-to-back Stanley Cups. This is obviously the Lightning's third chance. Avalanche last night looked like the team that was more experienced in terms of how they started, how they bounced back from the 2 goals allowed in the second period, less than a minute apart. And even how they went into overtime. Right? Went into overtime, put a couple pucks on net late, and the Lightning were just standing around, and then the Lightning were standing around in overtime, and the Avalanche score. So last night was just not the Lightning night. I don't know if it's just game 1s or what it is, because we saw this in game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and everyone just related it to the Lightning being tired and worn down. But the Lightning only had 3 days off here. They get into this situation, or rather, against the conference finals, against the Rangers, Lightning, everybody said, oh, they were too rested, or they were, a little rusty. They only had 3 days off here. They shouldn't be rusty. Last night, they showed a lot of signs of just did not look like a good hockey team. And the Avalanche just looked like the better team. And some of that could be home ice, right? I mean, you have a crowd in your advantage. You had Ball Arena last night, that place was rocking, rightfully so. Fans have been wanting this for a very long time. Haven't gotten this since the 2000-2001 season. So last night it was all Avalanche, and they came out, played their game, forechecked, played well. Darcy Kemper stepped up and scored 4 goals on arguably the best goaltender in all of hockey. And if he keeps up what he's doing, a future Hall of Famer. So if you're an Avalanche fan today, you got to feel great. And if you're a Lightning fan, you got to wonder, what you got to be better. Because other than that stretch in the second period where you scored 2 goals in 48 seconds, after really you just got outplayed the rest of that. I mean, they got outplayed all night other than 48 seconds in that entire game. That's really how I look at it. Because, and even that, even that 1 goal by Nick Paul to put up, even that, the Avalanche, they got outplayed in the first period. Despite that goal, they still went into the locker room down 3-1, allowed 3 goals in the first period. They put themselves into a hole early, couldn't dig themselves out of it. It's one thing to win on the road. That's hard enough. It's even harder to win on the road when you dig yourself into a 3-0 hole early against an offense that you know is going to continue to do damage. So, Lightning just were not on their game last night. Avalanche were the much better team. Came out firing on all cylinders, came out high energized, put a lot of pucks on net. And you could say that they might have worn down the Lightning last night because they did a lot of damage in the Lightning zone. 38 shots on goal to the Lightning's 23. And if the Lightning want to win, they got to put more pucks on net on Kemper. Because Kemper's a good goalie. He's not the greatest. You put 38 shots on Kemper, you could probably win the game. Lightning couldn't get anything going, though. And that was the big issue. So Avalanche win 4-3. And like I said, too, I mean, even just down to the point of, even just down to the, even just down to the, just the little things. Like, even spacing and stuff. Like, the Avalanche it looked like they had all the space in the world. Like, that's where some of it I don't think is all to blame on Vasilevsky, although he did let in 2 softies to start. But let's be honest here. I mean, there was a couple dumb penalties that were taken. There was a couple stretches where the Avalanche were just forechecked and the Lightning turned it over in the neutral zone or in their own zone. Like, it was just rough. It was rough for the Lightning last night. I don't think the score tells it all. I don't think the score shows it all. I think if you watch that game without looking at the score, you probably go ahead and say that's a 4-1, 5-1 game. But with the Lightning scoring those 2 goals, having that little bit of that stretch of 48 seconds where they just looked like where they just scored 2 quickies. Other than that, it was all Avalanche. So Lightning fall down 1-0. Avalanche take a 1-0 lead. Game 2, like I said, 8 Eastern, ABC. That will be on Saturday night. Just to give you some more stats, 38 shots on goal for the Avalanche, 23 for the Lightning, 43 hits for the Avs, 40 for the Lightning. Lightning did win the face-off battle by 38-24, so they had a 60% face-off win percentage to the Avalanche's 40%. Look at this too. The Avalanche had 17 takeaways. 17. In the turnovers for them. I mean, geez, the forecheck was great last night by the forecheck was great by the Avs. It really was. It was great by the Avalanche. So final stats for the Avalanche. Bobrovsky had 1 goal on 3 shots. Comfer had an assist. Landeskog had a goal and assist. Lehkonen had a goal. McKinnon had an assist. Don't know how to pronounce the guy's name. You know what's crazy is the Ray Ferraro was saying it too. His name, I forget his name. Nick Kushin. I don't know how to pronounce it. He had 2 points, a goal and an assist, and Rottinen had 2 assists. The defenseman Byram had an assist, and that was it. Kemper had saved 20 of 23 shots, 3 goals allowed, a save percentage of .870, and Avalanche get the job done, win game 1, and now you have 2 days off for the Lightning to rethink what happened because it was bad. They need to make some adjustments. And for the Avalanche to just play your game and do what you did last night in the rest of the series, and you'll win it. So next game, like I said, Saturday, 8 Eastern, ABC. That will also be at Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. So Avalanche take a 1-0 series lead. And, game 2, Saturday night, 8 Eastern, ABC. All right, coming up next, we're going to get to the Avalanche. Coming up next, we're going to get to the Braves' 14-game win streak. Yes, you have heard that right. We've had a couple of long win streaks this year, and you've had a couple long losing streaks this year in baseball. This is another long winning streak for the Atlanta Braves, 14-game win streak. And things are starting to begin to get a little tighter in the National League East. I'm going to get to the Braves, their success, why they've had so much success recently, how long this may go, and why the NL East is getting really, really tight and could get interesting, and why this was expected in the National League East. And also, not only am I going to talk about why Braves fans should feel good about themselves, but why Met fans should not panic that the lead is only 4 games in the National League East. We'll get to that and much more coming up next on the BSN Network podcast. All right, so welcome you back here up at the BSN Network program here today, Thursday, June 16th, fresh off of a Yankee win last night. Mets took a loss last night, a rough one for them. They just could not hit. Defense was bad. It was 10-2. Those are the type of games throughout the season when you're having a really good year. You don't let those mess up your mojo. You take those, you crumble them up, throw them out the window, and forget about them. Throw them out a trash can outside of Citi Field. Forget about them, because those are the performances that you're going to have. You're going to have clunkers throughout a 162-game season. Not every night's going to be bright, shiny, we're hitting everything, we're dominating pitching. Not every night's going to be that. And last night was the case for the Mets, and we've seen that throughout the year. It happens every year. You're not going to win every single game, and some games you're going to have those off nights. But last night, the Braves won their 14th straight game by a score of 8-2 against the Washington Nationals. They'll have a day off today before visiting Chicago. And, you heard that right. The Atlanta Braves, who started the season really kind of, concerning a little bit. Prior to this win streak, they were 23-27. 4 games below 500. I mean, way out of the National League East race. Way out of the wild card race in the National League. And now they find themselves 37 and 27, 4 games back of the Mets, 14-game win streak, and their run differential has completely took a turn for the better at plus 44 now, which is the second best in the National League East. Only behind the Mets, who have been phenomenal this season, as we all know, with a record of 41 and 23. And the Mets still hold that first place spot, and they still have some cushion. It's not like we're talking a 1.5 game lead here. But the Braves are going into this season for the Atlanta Braves. You know, for a lot of Braves fans throughout this year so far up to this point, I mean, you could even say when they were 23 and 27 prior to this win streak, you know, through the first 50 games of the season, you know, a lot of it was, you know, the fact that Freeman wasn't there, coming off of a World Series victory, a little bit of a hangover maybe, just not the same roster without Freddie Freeman. Now Ozzie Albies goes down. Matt Olson's been good, he hasn't been hitting for the power that he usually does or what he's done throughout his career and what they're paying him for. He's only got about 8-9 home runs, but he's been solid. He's done his job. The power has not been there yet. And as a Brave fan to start the year, you're in an interesting spot because if you think about it, this Braves team was in an interesting spot, and that's why I feel like now as a team, like this is what this team's capable of. Like they were not going to go the entire year, and Met fans realize that. Baseball fans in general, I think, realize that look, the Braves were not going to go this entire season losing all these games and getting smoked in the National League East. I mean, of course, the Mets are up there, and the Mets are very good this year, having a great season, one of the better seasons they've had in a really long time, led by Buck Showalter, as you all know. But I think we all knew going into this year it was a little odd that the Braves were struggling the way they did. You know, losing series, losing games, not being competitive in division. When realistically, coming right off of a World Series title, and it's like just things aren't matching up, things weren't clicking. And as a Braves fan, you know, at that time you kind of had to be patient because you were without Acuna. You know, Freddie Freeman obviously signed with the Dodgers. You were without your two best guys. Now, Freddie Freeman's gone, Acuna's back, but it was still kind of an adjustment for a Braves team without those two guys to find ways to win. Now Acuna's back. And Ozzie Albies obviously goes down, but now Acuna's back. Matt Olson, like I said, has not hit for the power they would like him to hit for, but he's done. He gets on base a lot. Got an on base percentage of .347, which is, I believe, second best on the team, only behind either the second or like third best on the team, only behind Dansby Swanson, who actually leads the team right now with a .362 on base percentage. And Dansby Swanson's had a great year, batting .295, had a good postseason last season, had a good year last year for the Braves, has been a really good player. For as high of a guy he was coming out of college, Vanderbilt, first pick and all that stuff, he wasn't quite living up to expectations the first 2-3 years of his career, but recently he's been so much better and is having a really good year this lead. Leads the team in hits, leads the team in on-base percentage, and leads the team in batting average. But it's been funny because they've been getting contributions from all over the place. Like this has been a total team effort because while Acuna was out, although the Braves were not winning the way they would usually, it wasn't like they were sinking. It wasn't like they were awful. But they were not the team people expected. They were not the team people thought they would be going into the year, whether they had Freddie Freeman at first base or not. But now this is a team that is hitting its potential. And I don't want to hear, and I hate this in sports, and there's a certain extent where I do sometimes go down this road, but I don't like when people pull the card of, look at their schedule, it's been weak. Look, it's baseball. All right, anything can happen in baseball. I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, look, the Pirates swept the Dodgers a couple weeks ago. And then the Mets lost 2 games against the Dodgers. And then they won 2 more. Like, that's how baseball is. Things happen. Weird things occur. And I've always said this in sports. When you look at a team's schedule, you win hard games, that's great. But you always look at the easy games as games you're supposed to win. And good teams win the games they're supposed to win. And you have evidence by that in the American League East. To go to the American League, still on the East side, the past 4 years, the division winners have beaten up on the Orioles. You want to know why? Because good teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Good teams take advantage of the weaknesses in their schedule. And the Braves earlier in the year weren't really doing that. I mean, at times they were, but there was also times they were losing games, to teams like the Texas Rangers who've gone off to a good start. Losing games to the Red Sox kind of prior to where they found their stride. And, even losing, they did lose the one game to the Marlins, getting, losing to the Phillies. Despite that being after, I think that was that after Jordy got fired? But still, losing to a Phillies team that you would probably say you should probably beat. Losing to the Diamondbacks. Like, they weren't beating the teams they were supposed to beat. They weren't winning the games they were supposed to be winning. And if you are a fan of the Braves, it was a little bit concerning early on. Losing to the Nationals early on, second series of the season. But that's where you know why this team's so much improved, because they were losing those games early in the year, and now they're winning them. And they're winning them convincingly. 10-4, 13-2, 6-2, 13-6, 10-4, 9-5, 8-2. Those last three scores were just the series against the Nationals, which took place this week. Monday through Wednesday. They got a day off today. They'll be in Chicago tomorrow to face the Cubs for a 3-game set. But the Braves are hitting their stride, and they're hitting it at the right time. Because now you find yourselves 4 games back, and it's a total team effort. Because you have Acuna back, who's obviously a huge boost. You have Dansby Swanson, who's having a career year. Austin Riley has come out in a big way, especially with his power, leading the team with 18 bombs. And like I said, you look at Acuna this season, 284, 385, and a 478. That's his slash line. That's 35 games played. He's missed a lot of games. He's back, and he's better than ever. 16 RBIs, 6 home runs, 8 doubles, 38 hits. I mean, he's been having a phenomenal start to the year for his standards. And obviously with him missing the start with the torn ACL. And the bullpen's been much better. Bringing in Kenley Jansen has been nice for them. A guy this season, he's got a nice 3.25 ERA. He leads the team in saves. You look at their rotation, their pitching has been better. I mean, that's their pitching isn't lights out, but Max Fried's been solid. Like I said, Kenley Jansen, a nice bullpen piece. So you look at this Braves team, and if you're a Braves fan today, you got to feel great about it. Because you're hitting your stride, and you don't, listen to all these critics say, oh, the schedule weak. Well, look, every team's going to have weak parts in your schedule. Those are the parts you're supposed to take advantage of. Good teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And the Braves are doing that. And early in the season, Braves really weren't that good of a team. And they weren't beating those teams. The bad teams. The Nationals. The Diamondbacks. The Phillies. Now, the Phillies aren't a bad team, but early in the year, they were off to a really rough start. Now they're beating those teams. Beating up on the Pirates. Beating up on the Nationals. They're taking advantage. And that is a sign of a team hitting its stride and a sign of a team coming together, all the pieces falling in place. And there's a couple guys on this roster, specifically Matt Olson, that you could say haven't even hit their stride yet. And when they do, you know how much that can benefit a team. So the Braves are looking real good. And they find themselves, like I said, 37-27, 4 games back. And look, now I did talk about this with the Braves, but for Met fans, this is also where you can't get concerned either if you're a Met fan. And I've always said this. I wanted to say I said this on my Bubs. I said this. I think I said this on my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast, which I do every Sunday on iTunes and Apple Podcasts if you're interested in watching. For Mets fans out there that are beginning to get worried about the Braves. I mean, obviously I get that. I get why fans would be worried when you're a team in your division who looked flat out terrible for the first 2 months of the season, and now all of a sudden looks like the team that they were last year, which is a team that won the division, obviously, and went on to go win the World Series. when you see that, it is a little bit concerning. And it is a little bit worrisome. But I said this on my podcast that I do for baseball on every Sunday. Like, for the Mets, like they can't worry about the Braves. If they just continue to win and do their job, and similar to what the Braves are doing, win the games they need to win, keep winning series, keep doing their thing, they'll be fine. They'll be fine because they're already leading. They got the second best record in baseball, only behind the Yankees. They'll be okay if they continue to do that. It's not time to be concerned yet if you're a Met fan. Now, very well, this could change drastically. If the Mets lose tonight and it gets swept by the Marlins and the Braves still win, and now we're looking at, on Monday, you're looking at a one-game lead that's going to, that's going to, in between Mets and the Braves, that where it gets a little bit concerning in terms of, all right, this is where it could really be a back-and-forth battle. But Met fans and the Mets got to realize this. I think everybody expected this. The Braves weren't going to be that bad for that long. There was no way. They were without Acuna for the majority of that tough start. Now they have him back, and now all their pieces are falling into place. And like I said, Matt Olson, one of their better players that they brought in to replace Freddie Freeman, hasn't even done exactly what he's capable of yet. So you're just waiting for him to break out as well. And once he breaks out, that makes that team so much better. So for the Mets, for a lot of Met fans saying, oh, great, here we go again. I don't think that's it, because I know, where the Mets got to get off to great starts. It does seem like it is a little bit different in the world of Metland with Buck Showalter leading the way. Obviously a better roster than they've had in past years where they've had division leads and then have let them go. And also you have Buck Showalter, like I said, who is a true baseball guy where the players buy in, players believe, and you have an owner that's going to spend money. And if it comes down to the trade deadline where you need to spend money and you're back in a division all of a sudden, Steve Cohen's going to do it. If it comes down to the point where the Braves keep winning, I'm saying that they don't win it. I'm not saying they're going to win every game, but if the Braves continue their winning ways and do what they do and become one of the best teams in baseball, you're going to have Steve Cohen that comes out and is going to spend money and is going to do everything they can to win the NL East. So it's not really time to completely be concerned if you're a Met fan. I get why people are, because if I was a Met fan, or if I was a Met fan, I would feel the same. A team in your division's in a 14-game win streak, and they very well could win 3 more because they got the Cubs coming up, which is a team that they should beat. Then their schedule does get tight, because then they have the Giants and then the Dodgers coming up. So their schedule, too, it's going to happen. You're going to go through stretches in your schedule. You're going to go through win streaks. You're going to go through losing streaks. But this is a big win streak for the Braves. And if the Braves go on and win the NL East, you're going to look back at this stretch of games and say it saved their season. Because prior to this, they were 23-27 and a good, 9 games back. And the Mets were just cruising, winning. And the Mets still are winning. But the Braves are also winning even more now, with a 14-game win streak, and that's why we find ourselves here with a 4-game lead in the NL East. But yeah, at the beginning of the season, you had to expect this if you were a Met fan. You're not going to win the NL East easily. And especially with the Phillies team, too, now that's a lot better. Now, they're still 8.5 back. I don't think they're a team that's going to really compete for the NL East, but they're a team that's capable of maybe making the final wild card in the National League if they can get their bullpen figured out, something that they got to address at the trade deadline if they want this season to go anywhere for the Phillies. But you have to expect this if you were a Met fan. And it's going to be fun to see how the rest of this division plays out, because now you have a true, legit divisional race. And for the Mets, too, look, the National League's tough. American League, not as much. Outside of the Yankees, as a Yankee fan, we're beating the Rays now. The Blue Jays are good, but outside of them, we dominate the Twins. It's really the Astros. They're the other team in the American League that's truly kind of that scary team, and the Yankees will meet the Astros starting Thursday of next week at Yankee Stadium. So, for the Braves, it's great. They're winning a lot. Great for them. They're doing what I think everybody expected them to do earlier in the year, and especially when Acuna got healthy, they're now doing it. 14-game win streak, and they look to extend that tomorrow night in Chicago against the Cubs. And for the Met fan out there that is really, really worried, I don't think it's time to worry just yet. I understand where you're coming from, but you also have to realize your team's very talented. You're winning a lot of games. I wouldn't say it's time. It is time maybe to be a little bit concerned. It is. You know, if you're a little bit concerned, I understand why. But you still have a 4-game lead. You still have a grasp in this division. If you just keep winning and doing what you do, Mets will be all right. Still got the second best record of baseball and the best in the National League. It's up to the Braves to continue their winning way if they want to catch up to you. All right, so that's what I got for the Braves and the Mets there in the National League East. The rest of that, by the way, this is why I think it's National League. And for any Met fan out there that thought the division was going to be a cakewalk, look, it's not going to be. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And the Mets are going to go through spurts of their season where they struggle too, and the Braves, I'm sure, will have theirs throughout the rest of this season. But, you know, now things are interesting. And this is really for the Mets, where it's interesting. We're in the middle of June, getting closer to July and the All-Star break and all that stuff. Now this is where things get interesting if you're the Mets. And now this is really where they got to really start winning games. Because if they just keep winning, they'll be fine. So this is how the National League is. But like I said, outside of the Mets and the Braves at number 1 and 2 in the NL East, you got the Phillies, 3rd place, Marlins 4th, and the Nationals are in 5th. Marlins, Nationals, completely none. No. Marlins 11.5 out, Nationals 18.5 out. Phillies are 8.5 out. Phillies are 32 and 31. They're in an interesting spot because they are, you look at the wild card, they are 3.5 games out of the 3rd wild card in the National League. So they're going to have to compete with the Brewers and the Giants to get to that point, but they're 3.5 out of the 3rd wild card in the National League. So, and we're only in June. Now this is June. I'm not trying to talk about the postseason. I'm just saying that the Phillies might not compete as much in the division, but they're a team that's capable of competing for a wild card spot. You know, I could see them finishing 6-7 games out in the division, but very well could maybe get that 3rd wild card spot. But they got to start winning more games. I mean, they can't blow games, you know, especially when it comes to postseason. But look at the Braves roster here. Their schedule. Giants for 4, then the Dodgers for 3. So after this series coming up here on Sunday, or on this Friday through Sunday, they're gonna have tough games as well. So, but the Braves are winning, and if you're a Braves fan, you got to feel great. And you know, for the Mets and the Mets fans and kind of the Mets as a whole, you know, they just got to keep winning because now you have a legit race in a division. Still got a 4-game lead. It's not like we're talking about a 1-game difference here, but you got to start winning. You know, you got to continue. Right, not start winning, rather. You got to continue to win, you know, in order to kind of tame this Braves win streak in a way. All right, so that's what I got for the Braves and their 14-game win streak, which has been phenomenal. It's been exciting anytime you see that, and obviously for a baseball fan, it's fun to watch because they're not in my division. They're not even in my own league. They're in the National League. I don't got to worry about the Braves until if we ever meet in the World Series. But anyway, let's get to the New York Sports Update here coming up next. All right, so welcome back here about the podcast. All right, so let's get to the New York Sports Update and the rest of what's going on in the world of sports. Tonight is Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Celtics, Warriors tonight. Celtics come into tonight's game 3.5-point favorites. Tonight's game comes on 9 Eastern on ABC. This is it for the Celtics. You got to win tonight. If you win tonight, you force a Game 7, which would be on Sunday, June 19th. That would also be, it doesn't say what time, but that would be on Sunday if necessary on ABC. So an opportunity for the Celtics to force a Game 7. They're on their home court. They're in Boston. You know that place is going to be going wild. They got to get the job done. They got to protect home court, else their season is over, and the Warriors are NBA champions. So that's going on tonight. As for the MLB, you got the Cubs, Padres, Blue Jays, Orioles, Rockies, Guardians, Nationals, Phillies, Tigers, Rangers, Mariners, Angels, and the Red Sox, A's going on right now. You got the Mets and the Brewers tonight. Mets coming to tonight's game 41-23. Brewers coming to tonight's game 35-29. The rubber game of a 3-game set. The Brewers have Aaron Ashby on the mound. He's 1-5 with a 3.91 ERA, and the Mets have Tyler McGill on the mound. He's 4-2 with a 4.50 ERA. The over over-under set at 8. Tonight's game, 7:10 Eastern on SNY. And as for the Yankees tonight, Yankees come into this game 46-16. Rays come into this game 35-27. Third game of a 3-game set. Yankees look for the sweep. Tonight, 7:05 Eastern on MLB Network and Yes Network. Rays got Beeks on the mound. He's 1-1 with a 1.39 ERA. And the Yankees got Luis Severino on the mound. Yes, Sevy out there on the mound tonight. He's 4-1 with a 2.80 ERA. The over-under is set at 8 tonight. So Yankees look to get the win before heading out on to a little bit of a road trip. Toronto and then Tampa coming up after tonight's game. Alright, so as for fantasy baseball, in my main league, I'm currently winning 226-148. I've got everybody going other than Correa, India, Urshela, Jonathan India, Urshela, and Vaughn. Because those are the guys going. Moncada, Bregman, Araz, Gurriel aren't. So Vasquez, Adames, Torres, Harper, Judge, Gurriel Jr., Blackman, Walsh, and Realmuto are all in the lineup. And no pitchers in this league going today. In my other league, I'm currently losing 185-91. I've got going Realmuto, Crone, Bichette, LeMahieu, Soto, day to day. The update on him is Soto knee is out of lineup Wednesday's game. Mark Zuckerman reported. Who knows if he'll be back tonight? We'll see. Springer is not in the lineup today. But I do have going Teoscar Hernandez, Charlie Blackmon, Walsh, and Torres. I have Musgrove on the mound as well. By the way, Kopech's day to day. He'll throw a bullpen session Thursday. He's got a knee injury, so hopefully he's back. And like I said, in my main league, I got no pitchers going today. But I'm still winning in that league, 226-148. So hopefully I can get the win. And that will do it for the podcast here today. Another good one in the books. Game 6 tonight. Warriors, Celtics, back at TD Garden in Boston. So we'll see how that all plays out there. Celtics look to force a Game 7, and the Warriors look to win yet another championship. Steph Curry looks to add to his legacy. So that's what's going on tonight, along with the Yankees and the Mets, as they each close out their respective series against the Rays and the Brewers. So that will do it for tonight. That will do it for today's podcast, rather. Enjoy the sports on tonight. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.